DC and Marvel Comics have been at odds with each other for literal decades now, but recently, their feud has been taken off the pages and onto the big screen. However, the feud between these two comic giants doesn't seem to apply to the actors who star in their films. So, in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some actors who you may not know have played a character in DC as well as Marvel. So, without any further delay, let's get right into it. First one, Chris Evans. I think it's pretty obvious that Chris Evans has been one of the big faces in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU. But did you know that he actually also played a character in a DC film? I'm sure some of you are trying to rack your brain to try and picture the Captain America star as a superhero from DC. But he actually didn't play a superhero during his time with DC. He played a highly intelligent agent in the film The Losers. His character Jensen was the tech member of the highly elite group of operatives that debuted in the DC Vertigo comic line of the same name. He may not have had much success in DC as he did with Marvel, but he has dipped his feet in both sides of the comic book war. Secondly, Zachary Levi. Levi is mainly known in the superhero community as Shazam, the lightning-wielding kid turned adult superhero in the film of the same name. But did you know that he has actually been in not one, but two films in the MCU? We would forgive you for forgetting which two they are, as one of them is widely considered to be one of the worst of almost 40 films in the growing connected universe. And he was in the second one for less than a minute, but he played Fandral, one of the Warriors 3 in both Thor: The Dark World and Thor: Ragnarok, in which he meets his grisly demise at the hands of Hela. He may not have had much of an impact in the MCU, however, he will most likely be carrying the fate of the DC Extended Universe, or the DCEU, on its back for the foreseeable future. Next up, Taika Waititi. Everyone's favorite Australian director crashed onto the screen with his direction of Thor: Ragnarok that essentially saved the Thor franchise from becoming one of the worst character arcs of any major studio. But did you know that he also lent his voice to one of the MCU's favorite funny men? That's right, he actually plays Krog, the rock person in both Thor: Ragnarok and Thor: Love and Thunder. But did you know that he also recently starred in a DCEU film? You may have missed him in the film, but Waititi was actually in the Suicide Squad as Ratcatcher, the father of the woman who played Ratcatcher 2.0. He was only in the film for a few minutes, but nonetheless, he is always a treat to watch on screen. Let's talk about Russell Crowe. Another big-name actor to appear in both a DCEU film and an MCU film, Crowe recently made his way into the MCU by playing Zeus in Thor: Love and Thunder. While he was a very lighthearted and funny character in the MCU, he played a much different role in the DCU as the father of Superman, Jor-El, in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. While both roles were not huge to say the least, he will definitely be remembered in both the MCU and the DCEU, just for entirely different reasons. Now for Pom Klementieff. This one may put people in a spin cycle trying to figure out which DC film she is in, as she is quite famous in the superhero community as the actress who plays Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and Thor: Love and Thunder. But did you know that she was also in a DCEU film? That's right, Pom was in a very brief shot in the Suicide Squad as a background dancer during a scene at a bar. It seems like a weird role for her to take on, but it seems like she just wanted to be in a film directed by James Gunn, the man who also directs the Guardians of the Galaxy films. She's in a blink and you'll miss it scene, but she is technically in both the MCU and the DCEU regardless. Let's not forget Nicolas Cage. While Cage is not in either one of the MCU or the DCEU, he has played a character in a Marvel and a DC film before. You most likely know him as Johnny Blaze, aka Ghost Rider, in both Ghost Rider and Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. But did you know that Kick-Ass is a DC property, which would make his role as Big Daddy Cage's big outing for DC? It may be obscure, but Cage joins the list of actors who have been on both sides of the comic book movie war. Now for Nathan Fillion. This one may stump people and have them questioning which DC or Marvel film he was in, as he has not really had a memorable appearance on either side. But he is in a DCEU and an MCU film. For DC, he appeared as TDK, or the Detachable Kid, in the Suicide Squad, and while he was only in the film for a few brief minutes, he was outstandingly hilarious in the movie. But for the MCU, his appearance is shorter and harder to recognize, as he has only lent his voice. Fillion voices the inmate at the Kiln in Guardians of the Galaxy that wants to slather Peter Quill in jelly and go to town, until he is promptly picked up by Groot and slammed to the ground. While his appearance is brief and animated, it is still one that people remember. Next up, Natalie Portman. While her time in the MCU is now officially over after her character Jane Foster, the mighty Thor's death in Thor: Love and Thunder, she has appeared in both sides of the comic book war. You may have forgotten that this movie is a DC property, but she starred in V for Vendetta long before she was ever in the MCU, meaning that she has acted for not only the MCU, but DC as well as Star Wars, putting her on an elite list of people who have been in major fantasy genres. Let's talk about Lawrence Fishburne. While he's a well-known actor, he actually only has a brief appearance in both the MCU and the DCEU. He played Perry White in Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Justice League, but he has appeared in Marvel films not once but twice. He was first the voice of Silver Surfer in Fantastic Four: The Rise of the Silver Surfer, and he also played Bill Foster, the longtime partner of Hank Pym in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now Ryan Reynolds. Much like Ryan himself, I'm sure there are roles on both sides of the Marvel and DC battle that he would want to undo. He was in Marvel long before he became Deadpool that we know him as now. For starters, he was in the Blade franchise as Hannibal King, and then he was technically Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but we don't talk about that. And now he's finally where he belongs, as the MCU's Merc with a Mouth. But before he finally landed the role that was made for him, he actually played Hal Jordan / Green Lantern in Green Lantern. Now, if you thought his other Marvel roles were bad, check out Green Lantern, because that almost makes the other two films that he was in look like Oscar-winning films. Now for Christian Bale. Bale was once known as the Dark Knight himself, Batman, as he portrayed him in the three best comic book movies of all time: Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. However, his role in the MCU, while still great, is unfortunately not able to compete with his long time as the Caped Crusader. Bale played Gore, the God Butcher in Thor: Love and Thunder. While he was easily the best part of the film, he was not used nearly enough, and unfortunately will most likely never appear in the MCU ever again. While he now joins the list of actors who have been on both sides of the comic book movie battle, we wish we could see him again in future MCU projects, or perhaps an epic comeback as Batman. And finally, Halle Berry. Once again, really once knew she was going to be on this list, but what makes her appearance on this list so amazing is the fact that she has only one role in which she is universally beloved, and one where she is universally panned. Berry played the mutant Storm in multiple X-Men films in the early 2000s, all the way until the late 2010s, and she could still be in future MCU projects if she wants to. But she also starred as Catwoman in the standalone DC film of the same name. Boy, is that movie terrible. Once again, it is cool that she's on this list, but I'm sure she wishes she wasn't. And that's all we've got for you guys today on the channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the content, and we will see you in the next video.